Do you experience shoulder pain? And is that pain stopping you from being able to do the things that you love to do? Well, if so, you're watching the right video. Today, we're talking about shoulder pain and restricted mobility from the book Pain Free by Egoscue. And this video is going to be all about shoulders with pain. If you only have restricted motion in your shoulders, but it doesn't hurt, there's another routine in this book that I'm also covering. What exercises are in this routine for shoulder pain in Pain Free? Well, I'm going to be honest, this is the longest routine in the book, but there's a good reason for that, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But these 9 exercises are standing wall with block, sitting knee pillow squeezes, sitting heel raises with block, 3-position toe raises, wall stork, static back, progressive supine groin, and then cats and dogs, and finally air bench. Now, there's one exercise in here that can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to do. It's a stretch, really more than an exercise. That's progressive supine groin. I'll be covering all of these, or explaining all of these, but I'll also have links to individual videos about all of these exercises in the cards above, as many as they'll let me, which is only 5, unfortunately. But also down below, there's a link to every video. And also, as you can see, I've split this video into chapters to make it more easy for you to figure out where you want to go. So if you don't want to listen to the explanations of the menu itself, you can strip straight to the exercises and you can see previews of each one. And of course, check out those links in the description below. So let's talk briefly about why this menu for shoulder pain is so long. Well, I'm also going to be putting a picture up on the screen here. Now, let's look at the width of the hips and the width of the shoulders. The hips on everyone are going to be narrower than the shoulders, right? Our shoulders kind of stick out from our torso. Now, if you imagine two triangles drawn between these 2 sets of joints, we'll see that the lower triangle is much smaller than the bigger triangle. So our body has to balance this larger set or wider set of joints on a narrower set of joints. And that means that the function of this top set of joints is going to be highly dependent on those lower set of joints. And on page 192 of the Pain Free book, there's a simple self-test that we're going to go over right now. Now first, we just are going to roll our shoulders forward. I'm going to roll my low back. I'm going to put my head forward like a really severe slouch posture here, right? Now, look how far I can raise my shoulders. I'll demonstrate in just a sec, I've got highly mobile shoulders, but in this position, that's as far as I can go. And it's already uncomfortable, not very fun. And now out to the sides, look, here's as far as I can go. But look what happens if I assume a functional posture, if I reaffirm that natural S curve in the spine with my arch in my lower back, my shoulders over my hips. Look at that. I can go all the way in any range of motion I need to go. Over here, that's my range of motion right there. Right here, this is the range of motion. So if we're trying to fix problems in the shoulders, that's why this menu is going to be focused so much on the lower body, the hips, and the spine, because we've got to get all that in order if we want these shoulders to work properly. So let's get into a brief explanation of this routine. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that there's very little work in the shoulders. We did that self-test earlier in the videos, right? Well, we were able to show that the range of motion and the function of the shoulders is highly dependent on the hips and pelvis especially, and the spine as well. So that's what this routine is going to be addressing to get rid of that shoulder pain. Once you get rid of that shoulder pain, again, proceed to the next video that's in the cards above. That's going to be the restricted shoulder mobility video. And that would be the next logical progression after you get rid of the pain. The first exercise is standing wall with block. Now, standing wall with block, as you see in this short clip I'm putting on screen, is all about putting the load-bearing joints into a vertical alignment using the wall to reinforce that alignment. We've also got the block between the legs, adding a slight degree of hip adductor strengthening. That block is also going to help ensure that your knees stay straight and that you don't end up bending the knees. And this exercise is promoting thoracic extension and scapular retraction. Next is sitting knee pillow squeezes. Sitting knee pillow squeezes is again going to be working on strengthening those adductors by squeezing that block, but it's also going to be decreasing compensations and dysfunctions between the hip flexors, the hip abductors, and the hip adductors. So often the hip flexors become responsible and start compensating for the hip adductors and some other muscles in the hips that are responsible for rotating the femurs out. And if those hip flexors are really tight, we're going to find that our knees often point outwards, and this exercise is going to be help reducing that outward external rotation of the femurs because of where the hip flexors, the psoas muscle in particular, attach to the femoral head. Sitting hill raises with block is next. Sitting hill raises with block is now going to be strengthening those hip flexors in a balanced way. That block helps ensures that we lift both legs from the hip flexors evenly. One can't go higher than the other because of the inward pressure on that block. And I want you to pay close attention. If there was a piece of paper underneath my toes, at any point in this exercise, it would be able to be slid out without any effort, because I am not pushing off the ground with the toes. I am lifting the heels with the hip flexors. That's a very key aspect of this exercise. 3-position toe raises is next. 3-position toe raises is great because we are similar to standing wall with block. We're keeping all the load-bearing joints of the body in a vertical alignment, but we are changing the rotational load on the lower body. We have 3 positions, obviously, by the name. We have the feet pointed out, the feet neutral, and the feet pointing in. And so that changes how the upper body reacts to changes in the lower body rotation, and it decreases compensations between the two. Wall Stork is next. Wall Stork is you're going to find that it's somewhat similar in position to an exercise a few links down the road in this routine, and in terms of form, but we're going to be standing in this position. The other one is lying down. That's progressive supine groin. So the wall stork, we are strengthening and we're strengthening the legs while stretching out the hip flexors, and that is going to help the body work more functionally and bilaterally equal from side to side. Next is static back. As I've said it before, I'll say it again, static back is one of my favorite Ecises. It's a passive exercise, and after we've been doing all this work on the hip flexors and the lower body, we're giving that a chance to relax and just be completely neutral. And we are getting the upper body into a horizontal plane using the ground and gravity to pull everything back into a more functional, natural position. And this is a great time to take a little break and relax in the middle of your menu, but it's also probably going to feel really good in your lower back and in your shoulders as well. Next is progressive supine groin. And as you can see, if I was using that tower or the step ladder, either way, I'm going to be, once I get to the very bottom with my heel on the ground, I'm going to be in a very similar position to that earlier exercise, wall stork. And in this case, we are reducing compensations in the upper body using gravity and the ground, the flat ground, to hold all those upper body joints in a neutral position. We are also, the big key aspect of this is sometimes called the bread and butter of postural therapy. We are stretching out that psoas muscle in a progressive fashion. When the leg is at an angled, highly angled position, the stretch on the hip flexor is less. As we go down notch by notch, we are slowly allowing that hip flexor to elongate back to its natural position. And that is such a key aspect of getting your hips in balance. Next is cats and dogs, and while it may look simple, so many people do this exercise wrong. And in postural therapy, what we use it for is we get this kind of sinusoidal wave-like motion from the pelvis up through the cervical spine to the head, and the shoulders are obviously in between there. We're propagating all those changes that we just got in the lower body up through the spine to the head, so that we can finally get to the next step of this routine, the final step, air bench. And air bench is great for reinforcing all these changes that we've just made in the body. We are strengthening the thighs, strengthening the ankles, strengthening the knees, and we are reducing upper body compensations at the same time, using that wall to force all of the hips and the shoulders into a vertically aligned position. And it's a great way to finish off this menu.